More news coming in. Tamil Nadu Congress backing the Waqf land grab. Waqf eyes land of 150 villages in the state of Tamil Nadu. The MLA says once the Waqf land, always Waqf land. The Congress says Waqf to claim land with papers. Tamil Nadu Congress says villagers must pay rent to the Waqf. Listen in.
There are many Waqf properties, people are staying there and they are giving minimal rent. So some people are evading it. So the Waqf has its own way of giving them their notice that this is a Waqf property. You have to pay rent to the Waqf or vacate or whatever. So once they told vacate, then they'll again go to the court. The court will say pay a minimal rent, whatever the Waqf says, and this rent is being paid. And nobody wants to throw somebody outside. See, this is not the way this Indian government acts. Even Ambani lives in a Waqf property. Nobody wants to throw him out. Who wants to throw it? This Antilia is a Waqf property. He has taken it on a lease. So every Waqf property cannot be owned because once Waqf is always a Waqf. You cannot stay away from the preamble, but you have to pay some rent to and stay there.
All right, so you heard there from the Congress essentially. Hassan Maulana on Waqf property is what they've said. Now, villagers must pay rent to Waqf is what the Congress there is saying. Waqf to claim land with papers. Once Waqf land, always Waqf land. So there's defiance in that sense. The Waqf eyeing land of 150 villages in the state of Tamil Nadu with the Congress there backing the Waqf land grab. Essentially, it's the kind of noise that we're seeing around the Waqf bill and supporters of the Waqf talking about the fact that now villages will have to start to pay rent to the Waqf board there. Pramod is with us for the very latest. Pramod, the Congress there making their position very clear. Now the Waqf is actually looking at property and land of 150 villages here. The Congress says the villages will have to start to pay rent to the Waqf board.
Well, Sneha, one thing is very clear. We did ask Hassan Maulana, the Congress MLA who was in the assembly today, and the important aspect is that what if there was some kind of description that somebody has altered some kind of document or forged it and making these people scared for their lives, because already 150 families from that particular village were absolutely shocked to receive this particular notice stating that it was actually Waqf board property and they were not aware of it all this while. That is the biggest scare. But Hassan Maulana claims that once Waqf is always Waqf. He also claims that nobody will be removed from the property, but they have to pay a minimum rent for the thing. That's what he claims. But the problem here is that villagers are not even aware that such property was being claimed by Waqf earlier. So this is where the confusion arises, Sneha.
Pramod Madhav getting in those details at this point in time, talking about the fact as a Tamil Nadu Congress leader that villagers must be paying rent to the Waqf now. I'm going to thank you getting in. All right, Pramod continues, in fact, to be with us. Pramod, talk to us about how the opposition is looking at this claim. Obviously, would be seeing red, given the kind of back and forth that's happened after the passage of the controversial Waqf bill.
In the state of Tamil Nadu, the Chief Minister M.K. Stalin and his allied parties are actually opposing the Waqf Amendment Act. In fact, a resolution was also passed in the Assembly. But the problem here is that there is no actual clarity as to what is a Waqf board, Waqf property and how it actually gets implied on the ground. Because suddenly, imagine even this particular Kallukote village, they received this particular notice on on February of this year. Until then, they were not aware that such an issue was persisting. Now, people whom we spoke to very clearly mentioned that they have been paying the panchayat all the necessary taxes and they also have receipts for it, and every other government documents they have it on their name, and suddenly someone comes and claims that your house and your shops does not belong to you. This is where the shock arises. But on the other hand, Waqf claims that once it's a Waqf property, it is always a Waqf property, and if a document is being retrieved and if it is found, Waqf can reclaim it. So this is where this disparity arises. On one side, like the state and the allied parties of DMK are demanding that the amendments that were brought to the Waqf board